If your AI tool still opens a browser to find stuff online, you're wasting time, compute, and probably your sanity. In this video, I'm going to show you something better. It's called Firecrawl Search, and it's the fastest way to pull live web data into your AI app without setting up some clunky browser automation. I'll walk you through the new endpoint search. We'll build an actual no-code, low-code agent in N8N and TypeScript, and I'll show you how to use the search time-based parameter to build a simple trend analyzer. And yes, even if you've never touched a browser automation or workflow tool in your life. Most AI builders are spinning up full browser just to scrape a few paragraphs of text. But once you see this, you'll start questioning every slow, expensive agent you've ever built. I'm actively using Firecrawl Search inside my own startup to do lead enrichment, and that has been a game changer. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to get clean, structured web data with just a few lines of code and unlock a whole new level of speed in your workflow. Let's jump in. So if you're like me, you've probably needed to do some lead enrichment or try to find content online, and you might have gone and maybe tried to use a tool like Browser Use or any other tool that can do compute search, such as OpenAI, Operator, or anything of the sort. And what you'll notice is this kind of tool tends to be very slow because they are analyzing your page, your HTML, and try to find the right tag and click on it, and that just takes a lot of time. So there's a much faster way to do this, but in this video, I want to show you the difference between doing that with a browser use workflow versus using Firecrawl Search. So the example that I'm going to do in this video is to find information about a person just from an email that I will provide. So what I want the agent to do is to go on Google and try to find any information about that person. So I've added that prompt inside of this tool, which is Browser Use, which is an open source tool that you can find online. And I'm going to get it to actually execute the task. And at the same time, I'm going to put that inside of Strawberry, which is another browser tool where you can do agent use, such as Browser Use. And we'll compare the speed of this tool versus using Firecrawl for the same kind of work. I've already went ahead and created a workflow here, and I'll break down exactly how I did it in this video. So let's get going and let's run one of those tasks. If you haven't used it before, like Browser Use is a very simple way for you to write the prompt and have AI go inside of your browser and take action one step at a time. So we're going to be searching for John at firecrawl.dev. So let's make sure that we have the same user on all of those tools, first of all. So if I head over to this tool, so we have John Doe. So okay, let's use John Doe. I think this is totally fine. John Doe at Firecrawl. We're going to do John Doe at Firecrawl over here. And finally, inside of our browser use tool, which should be right here, we're also going to do John Doe at firecrawl.com. All right, let's submit this task and see how long it's going to take it to execute it. We have the task running on two browsers. You can see that it's already running the task inside of the browser tool, trying to find the things step by step. So he went over Firecrawl. So that was probably one of the first things that he found on the site. So he went over here looking for the information. It's still working and trying to find the result. What is our companion here doing? So it looks like he got to get started on the work, researching John Doe, Firecrawl, opening a couple of tabs to find this information. We still haven't found all the information, but it looks like it's doing the work while this is happening. All right, so while this is doing this and while we're working for it to finish doing the work, so we're gonna head over to N8N where I've already set up my workflow with Firecrawl. Essentially what I have is a manual trigger to start the workflow. Then there's a search that is triggered with Firecrawl. And finally, we have the OpenAI to summarize what was found. So let's execute the workflow. It's just going to take a few seconds. So now it's doing, so we've already processed the Firecrawl output. So this is what Firecrawl got us. It went to every single link, processed the response, and now generated a full answer for us right here. So we just got the output in just a few seconds. And if I head over back to my companion over here, it looks like it is still working on it. And actually, I wasn't able to find any specific information about the person associated with this email. Well, that was a fictive email, so I'm not surprised about it. And here it said the individual appeared to be the creator of a significant contributor to Firecrawl, a tool focused on transforming website into data suitable tool. So just to give context, this is OpenAI interpreting the search results. This is not the result from Firecrawl. The Firecrawl result is this one right here. And as you can see, it took just a few seconds for it to generate. It looks like this task was done as well. So as you can see, it took a long time for it to actually execute the search. What I wanted to illustrate here is how slow the entire process can be. What we can do now is actually using a real email. I think this is going to be a lot more relevant. I'm going to pass my email this time. So this way you can find a real person. Let's say this is the email. Okay, submit task. And we get ahead over here, do the same thing. And I'm going to pass my actual email. And then after that, we can compare the results. Perfect. Now, let me walk you through how this thing works, right? So the way I build this is actually by using ChatGPT. So I use ChatGPT to generate the entire workflow. And the way I went about it is I described exactly what I wanted to achieve, word per word, and then I gave it a few instructions, and I asked it to generate that into an end-to-end workflow. And as you can see, I've also included some of the Firecrawl documentation from their own documentation from their site, which I got all over their site. And you notice that they have a copy page link right here that makes it super easy for me to copy it and add it inside of the prompt. Once I generated this, it was able to generate an output like this for me. And I just took this entire output and just moved it inside of my JSON formatter right here just to make sure that it was correct, and just double check that we had all of the nodes that we need. So node 1, 2 right here, and node 3. So search with Firecrawl and OpenAI. And once I was satisfied with that, we already have that into clipboard, but you can just hit copy here, head back to N8N, and you can literally just paste that like this. And N8N can paste JSON into node directly, and then all you have to do is head inside of the node and look for the area where you have to update your key. So this is my key right here. Obviously, I'm going to delete that. Just use this key for the sake of this video. So once you add your key as the argument for the bearer token, you are set up, and you just need to set up OpenAI and making sure that it is working with your credential, which I've already set up right here. So with these 3 nodes, I have a manual trigger, the Firecrawl search, which generates this kind of output based on this email address. And in the manual trigger, I just had to change the original email just to specify what email we're going to search. Then you can run the entire workflow, and it's going to take that email, generate this output. So you can see that here, Firecrawl was able to find all of my information really quickly from that search. So it not only search for the email, but it also can scrape every single link independently. Some of the argument that I've passed here was just the email as the query. I asked a limit of 5 links. I could have set it to 10 or more. And also I specified the language to English, the country to US, and timeout. And then in your invalid URL was false. I could have set that to true. And then you have the scrape option that allow you to even go deeper. And I'm going to show you how it works inside of the Firecrawl playground right after. And you'll see that it's much easier to flow over there. But here you can see exactly how quickly it takes for Firecrawl to generate these kind of responses. Once I got this response, then I can now execute the OpenAI step and have OpenAI convert that into a human readable JSON response. As you can see here, it was able to find a summary about me, find some of my notable recent activities, and potential relevance for the meeting. So I can now use these tools really easily by just adding someone's email, getting the report in just a few seconds, and then I have a complete report about the person that I'm about to meet during a meeting. It only took us just a few minutes to build this, and most browser use tool would take a couple of steps to achieve that because they'll have to navigate through the page, go to every single page, and process all this information. Also, we are going to consume a lot of compute use credits. We can add up depending on how many links you need to go through. But you can do that with compute use. It's just going to be a little bit slower than doing it with something like Firecrawl. So looks like we got a result over here. We got a very simple summary right there. So it works as well. But like I was saying, it just takes a lot longer to get to that result than when you're doing it with a tool like Firecrawl. And before we get into how I built this and the Firecrawl demo, I'm going to give a quick shout out to the tool that made all of this possible. Firecrawl is the easiest way to get AI-ready data from the web. Whether you're building agents, doing research, finding leads, or analyzing trends, one API call gives you the full page content, not just search snippet, clean and ready for LLM. I'm using it inside of my own startup Geeklens to automate lead enrichment, and it's already saving us hours every week. If you're tired of speeding up headless browser, writing fragile scraping code, or burning compute for basic tasks, you need to try Firecrawl. They've got endpoint for search, scraping, recursive crawling, even AI-powered deep research. And the best part, it works everywhere. TypeScript, Python, LangChain, OpenAI SDK, Zapier, N8N, you name it. So try it out using my link, firecrawl.link/richardson-dakam. That lets them know I sent you and helps support this channel. Now, back to the video. Now, let's take a look at Firecrawl. They have a dashboard where you have your API keys, and then you also have some integration right at the bottom. If you head over to Playground, this is where things can start to be fun because you can just head over to search and you can experiment exactly how to use it directly from here. So the example here is with restaurant in San Francisco. So I'm going to do the same thing with restaurant in Toronto. And here's the result that I got. So this is the kind of result that you'll get when you are making the search query. And you can actually get the code right here, get the curl request, copy that. And if you were to use it inside of your computer, you can, for example, just paste it here and you'll get a very similar result right here. So they make it super easy for you to use. And if you head back to the interface, you also have different options that you can use. So you have the option to scrape content from the search results. You can have the response as markdown, as link, if you wanted to. You can also decide to have different viewports. So this is a cool feature if you're looking for a specific person. For example, if I wanted to look for myself here and generate a screenshot of every single link that it finds, it's going to visit every single page and generate a screenshot of that page, which will allow me to maybe use that as a response. Imagine, for example, if you have a website where you want to display the preview of different pages, so you can use this endpoint to do that. So right here, it visited different links that he found about me and generated the screenshot right away for these pages. You also have the ability to generate a full page or raw HTML or HTML, and both can be really useful. And finally, you can do different limits. So if you wanted to get 12 results, language, English, and so on, country, the location where you wanted to focus on. But all of those fields are optional, but you can, narrow the search by just passing different options over here. And finally, you have the time-based parameter that allow you to specify the time-based search based on different quadrants, let's say hourly, daily, or weekly. We're going to use this by the end of this video, so stick around because I'm going to show you exactly how you can use that to create apps that can do trend research for you and things of the sort. Now, let's take a quick look at the documentation. So if you head over to the documentation and you click documentation, scroll to search right here, you have a really easy to use and intuitive documentation with instruction on how to use it with Python, Node, Go, Rust, and also some basic usage with Python, Node, and curl. You just saw earlier how I copied this code, pasted that on Warp to show exactly how it works inside of my terminal. And also you have access to their search endpoint where you can actually test that with their API directly. You can click on try it and you'll see that you can specify different options over here. So if you're curious to see how the time-based search parameter works, you can just type it over here, language and so on, and generate a response. So it's a good place for you to test how it would work and what kind of responses you will get. Since I'm coding with applications like Cursor and I'm vibe coding, what I often do is I copy the response that I'm expecting and feeding that to Cursor so that Cursor has some context in terms of what to do when there's a success response, when there's a failure, or when there's timeout. And I oftentimes will also copy the query, making sure to not include the key right here, and feed it to Cursor so that he has an understanding of how to actually use that so that he has enough context to perform a search. Now, Firecrawl pricing is pretty straightforward. It actually starts with a free plan that gives you about 500 credits. You can scrape up to 500 pages with that. If you upgrade to hobby, then you get about 3,000 credit per month, which is a lot. I still haven't ran out of my own plans. So if I head over to my archive log, actually to usage, you notice that their usage for extract token usage and credit usage are different. The extract endpoint right here is actually a separate pricing. But if you're using search, this is going to be the general credit usage. So all of your usage is going to appear over here. You can also see your historical usage over time. And also you can head over to activity log and you can narrow down the activity logs for a specific endpoint. So if you're using search and you want to see your activity log for search, or maybe even use that for debugging purposes, you can just filter by search endpoint and look at all of the URL that you have. I spend a lot of time inside of the playground because this is really where you get to experiment how to use it. But another thing that is really helpful is actually to use the templates. So they have the template libraries with different ways to use Firecrawl. And if you head over to all endpoint, you can also filter by search and see some example of how people have used the search endpoint to perform different search with their API. And if you click on it, you're going to go to the playground. You can just run this in the playground and be able to actually run the same query right from your playground and see how other people are actually using it, which can sometimes give you ideas on how you can use it yourself. Now, I really want to show you how you can quickly use Firecrawl to do something really cool. So I have a Firecrawl prompt right here that we're going to use. So this prompt, so what it does is I'm telling Firecrawl what it is, and we're going to have it build a trend analyzer for us. So we're going to build a TikTok trend analyzer. So I'm going to copy this text and we're going to head over to V0 where we're going to paste this prompt. So I've already pasted it here and we're going to execute this. What we're going to get with this is something like this. So I generated this before I made this video just to show you what you can do with it. And as you can see here, I created an AI trend analyzer that is able to find trends on Google on a regular basis. So the way it's doing this is that we're using the TBS parameter, time-based search, and we're looking for the most recent weekly search. So here, what we're seeing here is the latest AI trend that we found of this week. And all I had to do was using Firecrawl and passing this prompt, and we were able to build something really cool right now that can actually be someone's startup. So now let's head over to what we just tried to create with the other one and see what happened. So it looks like right now it's asking us to pass our API key. So you see here we had Firecrawl API key that was missing. So we're going to have to add an environmental variable for this. So we're going to click over here. We're going to add the key. So the key is Firecrawl API key. So head back here, paste this. Then now we're going to copy our API key that we have. I'm going to copy the same one that I used for this one right here. And we're going to paste it right there. So now that we have a key, I think it's good to keep going. So it's going to continue and try to generate the remaining part of this application. So again, our prompt was really straightforward. Let me just quickly update this because what we wanted to build was a TikTok trend analyzer. Okay, and then, so you are building a TikTok trend analyzer, analyze the latest trend each week and summarize them on a feed for me to explore. We've passed in the Firecrawl code, which I got from the documentation. So if you head over to Firecrawl search, you can just go and try it, pass the parameter that you want to pass here, then copy it over here. We want to make, so for this one, I made sure to copy the curl one, but I don't think it will really matter for V0. Maybe you can pass TypeScript alternatively because it's likely to write it in a JavaScript or TypeScript. And then you head back to the prompt, you paste it, and then I've added some additional documentation just to make sure that the AI had some context. And if you missed what I mentioned earlier, you can just head over here, click copy right there, or you can expand it, and there's different other ways for you to copy this inside of where you need to provide context. And then you add that here, and it's going to be able to get enough context to build the tool for you really quickly. Looks like now it's doing the search behind the scenes, so we're going to let it load some of the search. Look, V0 made mistakes. We're just going to fix it quickly. OpenAI key is missing. I'm not sure why it needed an OpenAI key for this one. I don't think that was necessary for this thing. We can maybe just ask it to ignore the OpenAI key. Let's see. Just use Firecrawl. No OpenAI key. Okay, that's interesting because for this version, it went straight from prompt to result. I didn't really have to add any keys. This is why there's only one version. But interesting enough, for this one, it looks like he tried to do something with a key. It's kind of crazy that we're able to build tools like this that quickly. In the past, I would have taken a very long time to achieve something like that because you would have needed to scrape the entire site manually using scrapers or crawlers. And now you can just do that by just passing an argument. You don't even have to write a prompt in this case. You can just write exactly what you're looking for. And I believe that if you need to pass a prompt, this is where Firecrawl extract actually become useful. So here is our result. So we got TikTok trend analyzer, and these are the latest trends from TikTok. We even have a search, and we can click on it to read more. And then we can see the latest challenge that happened on TikTok. So this is our little trend analyzer that we just built in, I don't know, let's say less than 5 minutes. And then that's it. And voila, it just took us just a few minutes to do this. And how we had to do was using Firecrawl new search endpoint. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and I see you guys in the next one.